Okay, today in class, we're going to try to make this roll cage using a three-dimensional sketch. Now, actually, in another video, I've showed you how to make a weld net, which looks like this right here. That's basically putting these 1-inch tubes all over this sketch here. Each one of those lines becomes a tube. So check out the weldment video for that one. We're just going to make this right here, which looks kind of busy and challenging, but we're going to see if we can come up with a neater way to do that. Maybe if we look at it from the right-hand side, we could maybe make a sketch like this to begin with, and then expand and grow from there. So let's give that a shot. So let me pull this one off to the side, and you can see that I started a version over here, but let's just start from scratch. And we want to make this a standard part here. And what we saw was basically first a two-dimensional sketch, and then we extruded it out into the third dimension after we got the perimeter established. So I'm going to have a line going off in this direction here, and I'm going to look off to my right to see what my dimensions are, because I do have the sketch lined up pretty well over here. And I see that one right there needs to be 38.3 right here. And let's see, there. And you know what happens. It expands beyond the view. So we just go like this to zoom all, bring it right back into view. We're also going to go forward a little bit as well. We don't need that many digits. So we're going to go to Tools, Document Settings, Units, just one digit past the decimal. And then we're going to make a 17.5-inch front nose to this vehicle. We're still doing a two-dimensional sketch. And let's see if we can stay on the line right here. So we'll go forward like this, 17.5, like that. And then we need to go up and to the left a little bit. Let me see if I can see what those measurements are. Let's see, is that 18? I think so. So let's see if we can document that one. Remember not to select midpoint. And we'll click right here for the 18 inches. And then we'll make this next one horizontal. And we're not going to come back to the origin exactly. I think what we actually do is go beyond there. So we're going to go 23 inches to the right. And then I thought we are going to come back toward the left. And we actually may do that because these angles are not really established yet. So I'm going to set it up right there. And we'll see if we can come up with some other numbers right here to make this fully constrained before we start extruding into the third dimension. So as you saw, what we're doing is going up over the head now, like this, over to the side. And then the firewall is going to go from here back to where we started. But then there's this back piece that's going to be a place where the engine is. So it's going to go here, a vertical, and then back over here. It's likely that these lines right here are not going to be part of the tubing, as they're going to be simply just basically a slice of the middle of the vehicle, as we will see. So let's see if we can make this fully constrained. We got 6 dimensions down so far. I know that this one right here has to be 30. So that way we'll get this last part, or the bottom part, fully defined. There's already white there, so there's a little bit of definition complete on that one. Now, if I remember right, it's also going to be 30 units up, but that's probably not right. Yeah, okay, it needs to be 20 units up from here. That's where the tow cable is going to be, or um, the tow point is going to be hooked up in case our vehicle breaks down somewhere. Got a separate video for that one. And let's see what else we got here. We know that along this axis right here, we need to have 29.8. Okay, and you can see the number of dimensions lowering as we get around here. And then the horizontal one, mine's kind of weird because I have a curve on there, a kind of a linear fillet. So I'm going to put two measurements together. There's my 3.5 inch fillet that I'll put in later. So we're now down to two dimensions. So maybe we can get this diagonal one here. Would that do it? Or what else could we get? Maybe the length of this one and that one might actually lock everything down so that we don't have any um, angles at all. Let me pause the video just to check to see if I have those other two measurements. Okay, and you can see that I put it in one right here, 35.1. So then we'll go over here, put this last one in. That one's going to be 46.8. You can now see that it's fully constrained, which is good. I don't think a lot of these are going to be part of the vehicle. So let me select all of these, and you can do the same. And let's make them all hidden lines. Let's see if there's any exceptions to that. I think underneath the seat, that's going to be one we're going to keep. Is everything else not really needed? Yeah, I think so. All right, now when we look at a perspective of this, we can see that all we really have is a slice of the vehicle. The slice of the vehicle's perimeter. So what we need to do is expand it out and toward the left and toward the right. But we do have everything on a plane, as you can see here. So let's make a line going perpendicular to the plane, going through each one of these points. And then we'll set up the measurements as well. So this time, we're going to go ahead and save that sketch, and we're going to start a new sketch. And it used to be a three-dimensional one. And we'll start with our line and just make it, as you can see, along the blue axis there. Now let's see if my theory is going to work here. Can we get to the midpoint here and go there? And it said it failed. Okay. Let's see if I can figure out why. Okay, I think I know why we couldn't connect those lines. I'll try it one more time just to be sure. But I think we need to make the 2D sketch, yeah, part of the three-dimensional sketch. So we're going to delete that 3D sketch that we just made. And we'll make all of these part of a three-dimensional sketch. So I guess if we say 3D sketch, start off with, and then can we select all of it right here? Maybe, and project it onto a surface. Now, what surface do we want? We really want it to be along that axis right there. Is that going to do it for us? And we want the curves. I wonder if we can just click OK right here. No, it doesn't look like it. So we're going to select each one of these lines. Probably could have done Control A as well to select all of them. And this should give us yellow outline, which is good for what we're looking for. Now we're ready to continue the three-dimensional sketch by now making the midpoint of this one over onto this 2D sketch, which is now mapped into 3D. So let's continue to do that for each one of these vertices right here. And then we'll find the links of these and we'll be on our way. So let's keep doing this. Just do midpoint right here. And you can do several of them like that. And then place them along the perimeter. The reason why I think this approach might work well is because it helps make things perpendicular if you start off with a two-dimensional sketch. And of course, you could have put a plane down first and then drawn on that plane. That probably would have been an okay approach as well. But I think the principle is going to be the same. We're going to end up in the same spot. This just seems to show, kind of a different perspective or a different, I guess, a different way of making a roll cage. Now this one down here is the bottom of the firewall, so we certainly want one of those. I want to say that that one is 30. Um, right there. Let me label a couple of these, then I'll pause the video and give you all of them. All right, the bottom one here needs to be, yeah. So this one is 10 inches, and this one needs to be only 5. Just a narrow bit right there. All right, and then down there where we're doing the bottom of the roll cage, it's gonna be 29 right here. And then at the top, let's see if I can remember what that one's supposed to be. Um, it's gonna be 27.5. These measurements were attained kind of using a brute force method, just making something that looks good, that matches roll cage designs we see online. It's going to be 12 inches right here. So we need to make that a foot. And right here. I think this one's 17 at the front. Nope. 20.3. Each one of these is 20.3. And we're going to leave this one a little bit longer, even though this one's going to be parallel and meet up over here. You're going to see what we're talking about here. I wonder if that's all we got to do. And is it just point and click after that? Now, suppose I want this vehicle to be pointing toward me. What I could do is go over like that, then right click on the view cube and say set current view as home, but it's not letting me do that. So let me do it again. Right click after saving, set current view as home. And then I can make this side right here, it already is the front. So there's home, like so. Now let's see if it actually ends up working. And if I have to go back and do any corrections, I'll certainly do that. But if memory serves, we just keep editing this three-dimensional sketch. So go back in edit mode and just start connecting lines, see if it makes sense. There's one rectangular surface on the side, and see if I can remind you what we're doing here. We're over here like this, so then we just did this rectangular surface right there. And we'll do the other one. Okay, now I know this one right here doesn't need to be here. So I'm going to put a hidden line on that one. Doesn't need to, we don't need to have a pipe right there, in other words. I'm sorry, not pipe, tube, right? And this right here should just be a construction line, but I don't know if you can really make a projected line a construction line, but that's probably a good idea so that those don't become tubes. Although this one is. We go lines here. Whoa, to there. And I think it goes all the way back to here as well. See how fast it seems to be coming together? So I think this is maybe a valid way of creating a roll cage using symmetries. All right. There are some parts in here, though, that are not going to be so trivial. Um, since the length of these things are all, of that one and that one is 23 point, isn't that 23.0 as well? Let's see. Yeah. Or, oh, is it 20.3? Oh yeah, 20.3. And so is this one. So the lines are going to continue going upward from there to here, here to there. And then make sure this one is not part of our vehicle. And that one doesn't need to be part of our vehicle. This one's not. Just reference lines. Um, gosh, I wonder if we can go over here to the sketch and say make it invisible at this point and find out if that really helps anything. Maybe. All right, let's keep going. So, hmm, yes, this is actually part of the roll cage that goes, or the firewall that goes around. So these lines actually need to come out parallel. So what I'm going to do is go over here and make a shorter line and make that one be exactly the same as these other three right here, the 20.3. And then we can line up the midpoints again. Then we can shoot from where we were all the way over to this one. So we're going to use that one for the firewall. Okay, that needs to be not a construction line. That one doesn't need to be there. And this one needs to be not a construction line. How are we doing? Well, it's looking pretty good. I think there are some horizontal lines in here. So what we could do is see if we can draw a line here and there. Delete this guy here. Let's make these visible. This will be where the seat goes onto the vehicle. So if we can make the midpoint of this one line up somewhere there. Oh, it rotated it also. We don't want that to happen. So let's make sure it's in the z-axis. So z-axis, it says it already is. So maybe just bring it down closer. And what I want, oh, well, yeah, I can see what's going on here. They're floating way above the surface. When that happens, what you can do is go over here to the sketch model, I think. No, maybe it's 3D model. Right. And let's make a plane. It's down here on the bottom using this guy and that guy right there. Now, I'm not seeing that happening, so I'm going to say finish. Try it again. Plane. This one and this one. Is that simply just the, oh, that's simply the XZ planes. We didn't need to do that. What I'm trying to say is we can use a constraint, editing our three-dimensional sketch, that says, if you go right up here, it says put this on a face. So we want this one to be on this bottom face, which is that one. And we want this one also to be on this face as well. Now, it doesn't look like it, but now you can kind of see that it is. Let's see if now we put midpoint alignments, if that'll help. Looking better. Okay, then I'm going to look at my distances from the back wall. I think I just put them at 6 and 12 just to be simple and straightforward. And that is right. Okay, so what we're going to do is save that from here to right there. It's just going to be 6 inches. And then from here to where the other support is, it's going to be 12 inches. And then what we need to do is make sure they intersect out here so they become a support for the driver's seat. There it is. Okay, now out here, this needs to be a construction line. That's not really part of the object. We also need to make that a fillet. In other words, we're going to put a bend in there. And what we do is we have a 3.5 radius tube bender. And so we're going to put that in there, and we're going to put it right over here as well. All right, so that's one thing we could do. And I think there's also a bender up here as well. So here and here, there, there. It sort of looks like something snuck in here. This line right here shouldn't be there. Then we like see how it's looking. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So it looks like we really need to have that firewall in place now, and then we'll connect the rest of it. But it's looking pretty sharp. So let's define a plane um, that has this line and that line on there, and we'll just draw this hexagon from there. All right, you ready? Here we go. So let's create a plane on which we can sketch something. There and there. There's our firewall plane. And are we still editing the sketch? I think so, yeah. So that means that we could maybe just face it a little bit. Could we actually say, look at this? If we right click on it and say, look at, yeah, that way you can kind of just face down on it. Probably even widen it up a little bit. Do I have to get the corners for that? Yeah. That way we can see this hexagon we're about to draw a little bit better. Let's see, make sure I'm looking at the right things. It's this one right here. So we will just try to do our best. You go back over 3D Sketch, get a line, and let's just make a V coming out from there, not along that axis. Let's not snap it into that view. We'll go like this, then we'll do escape, and we'll do another one that goes off in this direction. And then what we're going to do is close it back up over here, and that should be a hexagon. But my guess is it's not going to be all on the plane because I didn't tell it I was drawing on the plane. I just really made this part of my other one. And you can see that it's actually not in the plane. But we know how to handle that, right? You go up here, click on this, and you say, I want this to be in that plane. I want this to be in that plane. And then you can kind of move these around to make your hexagon better again. That really got off script a little bit. Okay, not too bad. All right, and then let's see what else we need to do here. Of course, add some symmetries. I think I have these distances marked somewhere. Yeah, 17.7 and 29.5. Oh, that's the wrong one. We can say make this one equal to that one. We can also say make this one equal to which one? That one. All right, and this next distance right here, what do we say that was going to be? 29.5? Okay, pretty good. Now we can hide the plane that we've been using to work with. If we can find it, I don't really see it in here, but I think if you go plus, you can see it down here. Right click on it here, maybe, and say turn off visibility. And let's continue connecting some dots. Like let's make some supports under the arms of the driver, or actually just, you know, outside of the driver. And I think we have to put another one across here somewhere. Let's see. Oh yeah, we need that three fillet. We need the bend in there. 3.5 diameter or radius. Better. And then we need to support the back where the engine's going to be. So we're going to continue that stretch from right there back over to here. And you'll notice these things are really hard to see. When you look at this, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but as soon as you start moving it around, it comes to life and you can get a better picture of it. The parallax is really helping us there. But if you just kind of leave it in a random position, it just doesn't make any sense until you start moving it around. Okay, so can we put the diagonal line in there? See, what I want to do is just take a line and start just somewhere along that one and go somewhere along here. And I think that worked. Yeah, that's the diagonal support you're supposed to have. We're not going to put any um, dimensions on that one. We'll work on that another time. But it does need to be there. This one needs to go from here over to there. And I believe it also needs to be along the z-axis. So let's make sure that's the case. Z-axis right here. And luckily, I already had it in that position. All right, let me stare at this to make sure I did everything. Is this all of it? I think that's the entire roll cage. Now to make sure that it is, I might as well just continue this and do the weldment. So let's save this as a part file, and let's call it nose car. I think I already started one where I did it using the brute force method in this same directory. Let me check. Should be down here. There it is. So I'm just going to put a V2. For this one, because I used a new approach, we're going to see how close this is to the other one. So if we say File New, we can now make a weldment. And then what you want to do is go to, it's going to take you to the Weld tab, but we don't want to do that. We want to go to Assembly and hit Place. And we want to place that sketch that we just made. It looks like this one, but let's make sure we get version 2 just to, there we go. So, and we're going to place this one somewhere in the middle and get rid of that. And then, believe it or not, you still don't go to Weld. You go to, uh, do you go to Weld? No. Is it design? It is. So we're going to design a frame. So we're going to go to frame. We need to save the part before it lets you go into the component library to get a nice frame for it. So we'll call this assembly number 2. For some reason, weldments need to be assemblies. And so now we're going to get to finally select our round tube right here, ANSI. And it doesn't give me a pipe option. I'm sorry, a tube option. I'm going to select pipe 1 inch diameter. I think the wall thickness right there is suitable for what we're trying to do. And then we just click happy here and just start going all the way around here until it has all the elements we need. If we see any errors, we can come back, look at those. I think I already saw one error a minute ago. Look at those tubes just taking shape around these lines. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, let's do the roll cage. Oh yeah, didn't finish this part, so we'll try that. And this one. Then come back to standard view. And it doesn't make much sense when we look at it this way. Oh, that's because it's facing away from us. I see. Yeah. Um, and also see another error as well. Let's see. We need to have one right there. So we got some errors right in here, and I'll show you how to fix those. And there's one right there. What is this diagonal line here? Oh, that's the side impact line. Okay, so let's hit OK and OK. It's going to make a bunch of extra parts down here for each of those weldments. Um, in which case we have to search and delete them if we find an error. So still processing, still processing. And we will go up here to the sketch, which I believe is right here. And we'll make that invisible so we can see everything a little bit better. Let's take a little bit of time on this one. Guess that means there's 46 or 50 elements. And let's see how this looks. So first of all, we will hide the sketch, which is above it here. So it's actually right there. And invisible. And then we're going to hit the home button. And remember, you can rotate it around since this is a new object here. You can rotate it around to redefine what your home is. You can even go up like this a little bit if you want to. And then say right click and say, this is my new home position. So anytime I hit home, it's going to come back to that view. You can see I forgot a beam here. I have a defect here. So let's do a little repairs. This one should be easy to fix, right? So I think what we can do is just say insert a frame. And then, oh yeah, got to make that visible again. Then insert a frame and click. Now it's done. Okay, let me show you how to do a repair. I think that this is going to take up more CPU. So if we're going to do more assemblies on top of this, we may not want to use weldments. We might want to use sweeps instead. We'll find that out as the course goes forward. So the reason this happened is that I put the fillet on, but I left the line in the wrong spot. So you can see up here, the distance between the point up here is 27.5. But you notice that I put a fillet in there and it didn't quite reach that point. That's the same thing that's happening here. What we should have done is put another line in there that's right where the fillet begins. Taking a moment to save. See what I mean about CPU utilization? Just imagine us trying to put a seed in here now. It's going to take this long. Now, I might just be doing the saving process. I'm going to close down some other windows that are open to see if that helps. All right, that took it a little while to recover, but we're back. Now, what we want to do is go over to this roll cage here. You can see where the issue is right here. This was to help us get that fillet in place. So this can really be a hidden line. What we really want is something that starts right there, then goes over to this spot right here, approximately. So we'll do that. So can I find that spot? I'm just going to make it approximately, and then see if I can use my constraints to get us closer. Okay, I didn't like that so much. Sometimes I like to use these points, but you really can't tell where the end of that is. Hmm. Seems like I found it right there. Okay. Okay, now it's locking into position. I think, yeah. All right, now if we save this one, any changes we make here should hopefully show up on our weldment, unless we have to import it again. Let's find out. You can see that the part did indeed show up again, or the line right here did show up again, and we need to figure out where that one's at. As a clue, we know that the length of it is 20.3, so we can look in our list. So is it that one? Is it that one? So I think it will start highlighting the parts. I don't think you can just click on it. Yeah. Tries to highlight the whole thing when you do that. But we got to find the 20.3 in order to delete it. There it is. So let's delete that tube, which is not going to delete the line that goes there. As you see, it's still there as reference, but it is going to delete the weldment. At this point, we add one more tube right here. Make our sketch invisible again for the nose car. And then we double check for any more mistakes. That looks pretty good. All right. In the next few videos, what we're going to do is go through a list of a specification like customer requirements and modify this to meet, requirements. You know what? We'll go get um, the Society of Automotive Engineers uh, expectations or rules and for the Baja competition and see if we can apply it to this one to figure out if we have any issues here as far as meeting design requirements. All right, I'll see you in the next video.